over. Right?
We're live. It's just
Yes, Ape.
It's a virus.
Yes, Ape. We're going to do your thing today. Okay, Mr. Ape. Okay, Ape. Okay. I'm like, God Almighty, please. I know you know my name. Thank you.
We got this.
Yeah, it's funny. It's definitely funny.
We're
complaining about work, fellas.
Offshore.
It's not
tech
ham radio
support.
stuff. Ham
So
radio is awesome.
we had a
Work
guy
sucks.
from Australia in our office, and we were having a little bit of a disagreement, and he says the word reckon, and I didn't know that was normal language over there. And he goes, "Oh, I reckon we can do that." And I'm like, "Would you say?" Because
We say reckon in the South all the time.
well, I
Southern
thought
thing.
I thought he was mocking me, and I was like,
Microaggression.
right. I was like, "What'd you say?"
Ape
He's
was
like,
all,
"What?" Like, you know what you said.
We're gonna roll.
You
What I was-
koala eating.
we had an Israeli guy, an Israeli tech support guy from Checkpoint, come to the bank to work on our stuff when I was at a very large bank. The Israel and there, of course, there's no smoking in the building. This is like 2005, 6, 7, somewhere in there. The Israeli guy didn't care. He didn't give not one F about anything. My name is God. I fix your firewall. I smoke now. You go F yourself.
right.
I mean,
data
that's
center.
like he literally said that to one of the firewall monkeys, and I was
We had a lady
don't
from
screw with
Poland.
God.
Right. We had a lady from Poland, and she was just like Natasha in Rocky and Bullwinkle. You know, like like super stern. Everybody was afraid of her.
Oh, I thought you were gonna go down the hot path.
That's where I thought he was going too. I'm like, damn, it's early, but here we go.
No, she was like, "You will upload the code. You will do it
will.
now."
You better upload your code.
It's like, okay, I'm all over it.
Like the lady on Austin Powers.
Yeah, exactly.
We will get to ham radio eventually, guys.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Coffee and Ham Radios. This is our Saturday show, if my calendar is correct. So thank you for being here and watching. Today we're going to talk a little bit about antenna tuners, and then we're going to take a look at some of the antenna tuners that are available on the market. And part of the reason we wanted to do this show is that there was some conversation around MFJ no longer being around, and the price of antenna tuners has gone up. At least it looks that way, especially like the used MFJ antenna tuners, because there's a little bit of a perceived gap in the market, which is probably very real. I would expect that we would see Intellitron antenna tuners coming out on the market anytime in the near future to kind of
And we
fill.
can complain about their build quality.
100%.
Exactly.
Well, it's funny because like people would be like, "Oh, I'm not buying that power supply because it's MFJ and MFJ's mighty fine junk," and then all they do is change the label to Intellitron, and people are like, "Oh, this
I
is
gotta have it."
fantastic. This is
Or
great."
Astron.
It's made in the same factory. Yeah.
Isn't Astron related to MFJ? Isn't that?
I don't think so.
Ameritron is what you're thinking of.
Ameritron.
Okay. Well, I can tell you about Astron's power supplies too.
I can tell you about Ameritron amps too.
Yeah.
You blow it up one or two.
Oh, I love blowing up amps.
Yeah, good thing.
If you ain't pushing the edges, son, you ain't winning races.
That's right.
Right. Well,
You
the
push it
thing
like-
is like I'll do that when I'm working with certain equipment or gears. Like, let's just push it a little bit more than we probably should. And
You?
It says 15 volts. I wonder if we can do 16.
well, if you're testing,
20.
if you're operating, you have to be
Oh.
conservative. If you have to be conservative. If you're testing, you want to see smoke. So, Chuck, what are you working on over there, son?
You all busy.
I'm just listening to you guys talk. I'm working on a CW key.
Well, let's see
being
what you
all
got.
humble.
I
Hold it
can't
up.
show you.
Oh, it's a secret CW key.
Well,
if
no,
he
I
moves
can
the
show
camera,
you,
you'll see
but-
he's not wearing pants.
Now, well,
Oh Lord.
now
on
that
my
I've
key.
lost the spring, I can show you. I was trying to put
He's
it.
gonna paddle it.
It's just this is the inside of it right now.
Let me get you on the big
I
solo.
know what that looks like. I see
Yeah.
what you're doing there.
It kind of does look like that.
And now I kind of want one.
They'll be available.
It's a Natasha key.
I've got that one, and then I've got another one that I can't really show too much of because
That was fast.
there's people that will steal designs. I've
That
got
is
I've
one
got
thing
two
that drives me
CW keys. I got two CW keys, and my buddy actually came up with the design, not the design itself, but the way I'm making it, and nobody else makes one like it. And I showed it to N8YO, and he's like, "Chuck, I immediately love the feel of this." He goes, "Why don't more people make it like this?" And So, I mean, that guy knows what he's doing. So I
can
took
tell
that
you
as
why.
a good compliment. Yes.
You wouldn't
It's,
like
it's
my-
hard. It's a lot harder. Believe me.
Well, I think it's a difference between the American keyer's hands, because you and Mike have kind of a similar hand build,
Oh,
and
it could be.
the people that make the keys.
I have a different hand build, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's just information, no judgment.
Well, you haven't even seen the new model, so
I haven't seen it.
I mean, you
No,
might
I saw
have
the other
you've,
one at
you've seen
Orlando.
it. The new one's a
I've
lot
seen it.
better.
I've seen the one you copied it from. Yeah.
Right. They're all the same. If you look at everybody's keys, there's nothing.
There's
There's
only
nothing
so many
you can.
ways to make an on-off switch, guy.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, you've got to have. You got to have what? Two posts,
I thought
two
he
key,
was doing
two
the other
paddles,
finger.
two paddles, and then some
That's what he
parts.
did.
Right?
I was like, whoa,
There's-
Chuck.
He give you that one.
It's just the only thing you can really change is
expressive finger.
the case, and that's what I'm changing. Is the case part. These will be
Tia, what do you-
available probably at
Go ahead.
Dayton. I'll probably
There
have
you
a
go.
bunch of them with me.
You heard it here. You can get a Chuck key at
Dayton.
Chucky. A Chucky.
We moved
It's
yesterday.
they're
We're
called
no longer-
5 dB keys.
Yeah, nice.
you go.
We're no longer in
I
Benson.
won't tell
moved
you
out
why,
to
but-
Globe, and it was
Globe.
this nice slow drive downhill, and then this straight rocket 8% grade up into the campsite. And my truck is acting up, so it was not a fun drive yesterday. It was about 20 miles an hour, pedal to the floor, uphill for the last 45 minutes of the trip.
Are you still
So you-
overheating?
You burn out the brakes on the way there, and then burn out the transmission on the way
Or
up.
not the transmission, I bet. Yeah.
I mean, she made it over the hill, the old girl, but no turbo boost, so it was 20 miles an hour. It was pretty bad. And then
Sean, I think
today-
it's cute that Sean thinks keys are only $120.
You're right.
some of 'em.
Exactly. Yeah. I've
That
seen
is-
them. That's a discount. You got that thing on it fell off the back of the truck sale.
Yeah, it's an eBay used key or something.
Yeah. So today I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to film because I've got a couple of challenges. There's a high wind advisory, 40 mile an hour winds from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. today, which means no filming outside. And if you've ever been in an RV, she's going to be a rocking today.
Yeah,
so
no filming inside either.
Oh,
no film. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
his rig's going to be rocking. And
No, I'm
he's
saying
not
it's
gonna be
awesome about
filming.
Tyler,
Tyler had his Poseidon and Kronos delivered today.
no, he said if only.
Oh, if only.
He has to go play radio with a subpar
Tyler.
antenna again. Tyler plays POTA
I think
a
Tyler's
lot,
is.
and
I think Tyler's is gone. I'm not sure.
Gone out
When
the
he
house.
says
Oh,
gone, he
so
means
company.
shipped.
But no, it
Andy?
is shipped. It is shipped actually, because the only one I have is Andy's. Because I had to go to the dentist yesterday. I didn't get to the post
Tyler's
office, so-
hardcore because he POTA's in Minnesota. It's a Minnesota,
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's freezing, right?
and it's oh my god, right?
All right. Well, let's Jim, what do you got going on down there?
It's Saturday morning. Here I am at your service, my friend.
Enjoying the coffee and ham radios.
That's it. Enjoying ham radio coffee in my ham radio and coffee mug tumbler. These are the
Yeah.
elite. These are the elite talent only
This
models.
might be coffee.
Mine is
Right.
coffee, and
Mine's coffee.
we have coffee available at hamradios.coffee.
Didn't it just go down in price?
It
We
did.
lowered
There has
the
been,
price.
and while Steve is sizzling the bag of coffee, I will put that up on the screen.
Look at Hollywood.
It's like, I'm gonna be making this one up today.
Yeah, I know. Hollywood, I will trade a Flex Radio for a dozen eggs, please. Thank you.
That's just crazy. All right, let's go ahead and
We got like 2 left, Jim.
One.
I don't think
One
the,
left
the
today.
site says they're sold out. Just
No,
for the record.
I've had one in the back. One.
But is it
Brent.
on the? It's not on the site. I
Gotcha.
don't
I
think.
think I updated it yesterday, yes, after we talked about it in the chat.
If only there was some way to check. Like
I'll
if you
fix
were
that
sitting in
now.
front of a computer or something.
Yes.
that would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
All right, let's talk a little bit about antenna tuners. And for whatever reason, this is a super sensitive topic with some hams, but we're going to talk about it anyway. So basically, we use antenna tuners so we can get an impedance match between our transmitter and our load. In this case, the load is our antenna, which is connected by a piece of transmission line. There's various flavors of transmission lines, and that's a whole nother holy war. But we use these so we get efficient power transfer. And what we want to do is get the most efficiency out of our transmitter, and we want to get most of that power down the wire and into our antenna. And what the ATU does, the antenna tuning unit, some people call them trans matches, some people call them match boxes, is give a 50 ohm or as close to that as it can find resistive impedance so that all your power gets out to the wire. Now, once that power's on the wire and it goes all the way down and hits your antenna, the antenna tuner does not tune your antenna, regardless of anybody who misinterpreted the book Reflections 3 might tell you. It doesn't change the physical characteristics of your antenna. So you're going to get reflections back if your antenna is not a 50 ohm resonant load. And those reflections, we call them SWR, will bounce back and forth from your antenna to your antenna tuner until they're either fully radiated or dissipated as heat on your transmission line. But what I have here is impedance matching ensures efficient transmission by minimizing standing wave ratio of SWR and power loss. We covered they don't physically tune antennas. Now, what's crazy about antenna tuners is a lot of people claim that there's a lot of loss in antenna tuners, and there can be in if they're not tuned, if you don't tune correctly. So you have to tune for maximum power transfer. Typically, it's inductance first, and then antenna, and then the radio side capacitors that get adjusted to do that correctly. What we see on the antenna is we see impedance, which is a combination of resistance and reactance, and that reactance varies and changes with frequency. And what we want to do is we want to cancel that reactance out to get a resistive load down there, and that way most of our radiation goes out through what's called radiation resistance. You also have, some people call it copper loss, but it's ohmic resistance, where some power is also unfortunately dispersed as heat. And what the antenna tuner does is it cancels out that reaction to get you to a resistive load. And you say, well, how do reactive components like inductors and capacitors, how do they turn reactance into real impedance? And what they do is they actually shift your phase angle. They can rotate your phase angle and make either voltage or current lead or lag, and it appears to be a resistive load to your radio. It's actually pretty clever, whoever figured that out.
Oh yeah. Hold on. Before you change slides, can we have a moment to argue before that?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to lose the context of what we're arguing about by showing the next slide and getting people all off track. So Tom is correct. Every ATU video I've done, I get at least one, it doesn't tune the antenna comment. That's true. Good for them.
Yeah, and things like, who cares? But other people come back and swear that it tunes the antenna. So I'm drawing a blank on his first name. There's a guy named Maxwell. I think it's Maxwell. I think it's
Hiram Percy?
No. He was the guy who wrote Reflections, the series of articles. It's Walter. There's a series. It was originally a series of articles about impedance, transmission lines, and antenna tuners. It was published in QST. The league published those in a book called Reflections, and then they had an update Reflections 2, and then they have an update called Reflections 3. One of the articles he wrote is called "Does It Really Tune My Antenna?" And I think he was being a little. I don't know the guy, and I never talked to him, and he's in the ground, so I can't. And I think he was being a little bit tongue in cheek with that, but nowhere in the book does he say that it actually tunes the antenna. He actually says things. He says things along the lines of, no matter what you do at the transmitter side of your transmission line, no matter what you do there, doesn't physically change the characteristics of the circuit at the load, and that means that you're not tuning your antenna. Like, I think that,
if you put this at the end of the antenna, everybody would love it and 100% agree with you. But you put it at the beginning of the antenna, and no, doesn't happen. Like a capacitance hat or a fold back or something along those lines, love it every day, all day long.
Well, the thing is like, if you change the physical characteristics of the antenna, then you're tuning it. And I always say, think of it like a guitar. To tune that, you have to twist that little knob, and it either tightens or loosens the string, right? So you're changing the properties of that string when you're tuning that. Now, here's where people will be like, a guitar is not an antenna. And our buddy Uber Geek over here, Side Boom, he says, what about a Tar Heel antenna tuner? Does that not tune the antenna?
That's the one that is the screwdriver antenna. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not really an antenna tuner. What it is it's a control unit that physically changes the characteristics based off of the length of the coil in the antenna. So it does, but I would argue that there are no reactive.
Would argue.
Yeah, well, maybe I'm wrong, but in the control head for a Tar Heel or an ATOS, are there reactive components in there that connect through the transmission line? No, so it's not an antenna tuner, right? It's a controller.
It's a resonator finder. I mean, what it's a distinction without a difference, I think, because it's tuning your antenna to match the frequency you're on. That's what it's doing.
Well, I guess it's
No,
a
it's not
semantic.
changing the electrical characteristics, but it's changing the physical characteristics,
which
and
is
that's how
which
it's
is
tuning it.
tuning an
Yeah.
antenna.
Yeah.
But I don't really know if it's an antenna tuner. Like, is your screwdriver an antenna tuner? Or is your wrench, if you go out there and adjust?
If I hit it hard enough, it will.
So I want to talk a little bit about the guts of some of these antenna tuners. And the first one I was going to cover is an L-Match network. These are really simple and efficient impedance matching, and it's typically an inductor and a capacitor, and which is called the next slide. I'll show you a diagram. Thank you, Kurt. Appreciate
Kurt,
it.
appreciate the $5 super chat.
Thanks, Kurt.
Kurt.
That's awesome.
And Jeff's saying that the aviation, they refer to them as a coupler. That's another term that I hear a lot that I don't typically use, because I think in amateur radio, everything's called a coupler. They're like, you take that coupler, connect it to the coupler, and then you put it into the coupler. So I don't like that word. That's right, Hacks, they are. But typically, L-Match networks is an inductor and a capacitor forming a compact circuit. And we'll look at some L-Match networks are the two capacitors or two inductors, but you don't really see those much in amateur radio tuners. They're typically really efficient. They don't have as many components as something like a Pi network or a T-Match network. And we'll look at pictures of those. So people like them, especially QRP operators, because they're generally smaller, lighter, and more efficient. When you're running lower power, efficiency is really important. One of the things is they do have typically have a narrower tuning range than you would see in like a Pi or a T network. So here's a diagram that I got from the Open Lab City of New York, and this is from lesson number 4. So thank you for allowing us to use this. But you can see a couple of different matching networks in here, and these are all like inverted L's. So what they consist of is a component in series and one in parallel. And you can see the first one is an inductor, then the capacitor. Down on the bottom, you can see the arrangement of the inductor and capacitor are different. Depending upon where your impedance is on something like a Smith chart, you use different circuit formations to be able to tune that most efficiently to get to your resonant point at the antenna tuner.
And we're trying to bring that down as close to the middle of the Smith chart
100%.
as possible.
You want to cancel out all your reactance, and you want to be as close to 50 ohms. So a lot of times with an antenna tuner, you can tune it to resonance, but that's not a 50 ohm impedance. It would be on the equator of the Smith chart. So anywhere on that equator where your reactance is canceled out is technically resonant. Resonant. I can never say that word right.
You
People
said
say
it.
resident antenna.
Yeah.
It's not-
Your
it doesn't
resident.
live- I mean, it does live with you, but you know.
Yeah,
it
your
doesn't help your
resident
radio.
antenna.
For all intensive purposes,
You know,
it's all the same.
I'm gonna put this. Yes, intensive. I'm gonna put this out there, and any of y'all radio makers steal this idea, please. Let's put a Smith chart in the radio display.
That'd be
What?
awesome.
Oh my God, that would be. That would
I mean,
be
if we
awesome.
can do it for $50 in a little tiny,
Yeah.
Yeah, that we're selling for $50.
yeah,
Why can't we put one in a $2,000 radio?
I'm
Absolutely.
sure all the hardware is already inside the radio to do that measurement.
Well, you know, as much as we bone on some of the screens on these radios, like the Ghetto 991A screen, it would still display a beautiful Smith chart.
It would.
I would still like to
70.
see like a microcomputer in like a Raspberry Pi in radios these days.
They
Zygoos
have one,
screen, yeah.
Ashar Farhan, the
Right,
BitX
right.
series, I think
Yeah.
it is.
The
And that
Ocean
was,
One ham radio.
Yeah.
So this is a diagram here of it's called a Pi network, and the reason it's called a Pi network is that it kind of looks like the symbol for pi. So you have two circuits going down and one going across. And Pi networks, they're not as popular as T networks, but a lot of folks will use them. And it uses two capacitors and one inductor arranged in a Pi shape. These work really well for harmonic suppression, where they were really used a lot for tube amplifiers because you would get harmonics sometimes out of the tube amplifier. And they have a really broad matching range, which makes them really popular, and they handle high power levels. Now, these Pi networks are generally larger in size. They have more components, and as a result, they have higher insertion loss.
You can.
So I don't know how many. I don't really see a lot of these days. I don't use tube amplifiers, and so I don't really have a need for one. But I'm sure they still exist. Most of the manual tuners that we see today are these T network tuners, and they have a really wide tuning range, so they're super popular. So you'll see the ones that we'll probably talk about from like MFJ and other manufacturers saying
That
like
just
one,
makes more sense to me.
yeah, saying like 160
Pi
to
network.
6 and all that. But it's typically arranged in a T shape, and you can see it here in the diagram. Both of the diagrams I just showed are from Ant 10 Top. And so I want to say thank you to Ant 10 Top. It's two capacitors and one inductor arranged in a T shape, really wide tuning range, and they can match a really broad range of impedances. So that's why you'll see the ones that say, hey, we can do 50 to 1 tuning. But they do have higher losses compared to L and Pi networks, and they may introduce unwanted reactance. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about shack-mounted antenna tuners, and that's what I do because I like to be able to just put my hand on the tuner and tune my tuner. I don't want to have something outside that I have to either go out and adjust, or I don't want to mess around with power cables and bias and all that stuff to go out there. And I'm not arguing that one's better than the other. I'm just saying that that's my personal preference. But shack-mounted tuners are easy for manual tuning, no waterproofing needed, and effective with low-loss ladder line. High SWR on the coax can lead to losses. It's less effective in extreme impedance mismatches. So what'll happen is that you have the 50 ohm impedance at the antenna tuner, but on the output of the antenna tuner, it's still seeing your original antenna impedance. So when your signal gets all the way down there, you encounter the SWR and it bounces back and it bounces back. What a antenna tuner does is it creates a mirror image of the impedance that's on your antenna, and that's called a conjugate match. And when the signal comes back and hits that conjugate match, it just does a U-turn and goes back the other direction. When you have lossy coax, the problem is that you have, well, one, you have voltage buildup on your line because of all the stuff going back and forth. But the other thing is when you have lossy line, you suffer loss with every single transfer that goes back and forth. And so that's why people will say that they can be a little bit of a problem in terms of efficiency. Life is too short to manual tune. Well, there's a seat for every ass, right? I mean, some people like them, some people don't.
Used car salesman right there.
And then down here, a lot of folks will ask, hey, where does the antenna tuner go? Where does the amp go? And and so what I have, and I think this is wrong, I have the SWR and the ATU should be switched. So just ignore that. Just ignore that. Then we have remote antenna tuners.
Intensive resident right there.
Yeah. So anyhow, down here we have remote antenna tuners. It matches impedance at the antenna feed point, reducing feed line losses. Requires a power source at the antenna and must be waterproofed. And that's hassle, if you ask me. I know some people have these things and they love them. Earlier, somebody mentioned the AT100, and I saw where this guy took an AT100 and he mounted it into a clear piece of Tupperware with a webcam. And he mounted it out at his antenna feed point, and then he had a control cable that ran all the way out to it. But he was able to tune it by looking at the screen on it through his webcam. I thought that was pretty clever. Still pain in the butt, but and my diagram's wrong. I'm going to have to fix that. So first we're going to talk about manual antenna tuners. They're highly efficient when properly tuned, full operator control. The challenge or problem with these things is they require manual adjustment for each frequency range. And we've done more deep dives on different types of antenna tuners. I just wanted to get some slides out here to talk about different antenna tuner types, pros and cons. So then we're going to take a look at what's available in the market, and we'll have these as a reference.
Quite a range of tuners available on the market, and quite a price range of tuners.
Yeah.
I was
looking at some.
Holy moly, they cost as much as a freaking radio, some of those things.
Well, we had talked about showing DX Engineering because they have the best website for browsing and looking at different antenna tuners. I was talking to Ziggy last night, and he was saying, "Oh, dude, you got to look at the ones on eBay." And we were looking at manual antenna tuners on eBay, like $500. which is for used used tuners. I was like, what?
That's crazy sauce.
Yeah.
Crazy.
What, Chuck?
Guys are crazy.
Yeah. Automatic antenna tuners are quick and convenient impedance matching. Automatically adjust impedance matching. Ideal for modern transceivers. More expensive, and they can introduce insertion loss. Thank you, Amateur Radio Caps. Super
Patrick.
duper appreciate it.
Thank you, Patrick.
Appreciate it.
And so the conclusion, choosing a right antenna tuner is the best choice is really going to depend upon your setup. Shack mounted manual tuners are ideal for ladder line antennas. Remote automatic tuners work best for probably coax fed multiband antennas. But you have to look at power considerations. High power users often prefer Pi network tuners for efficiency. It really just is going to depend upon what you're doing, what you're used to, and what you're happy with. Now, when I don't go portable, but sometimes I go places for work or for vacation, and I take a radio and an antenna and all that stuff. And when I do that, I actually like to take my manual tuner because it's super duper small, compact. And let's just pretend in a fantasy world I was operating QRP. I don't need a big giant tuner to do that. So it's a
Pretend that he's doing QRP with his many
Doing
QRP
the Lord's
radios.
work.
Yeah.
right.
And this is Rockstar Dave posted this comment about how to use a manual tuner, and that is when I first got a manual tuner, because the first tuner I ever had was manual tuner. It took me a while to get the zen of how to set those knobs to find the
I'll have
sweet
to try
spot.
that.
Well, some people put markings on the tuner and they're like, well, I need to be here for 20. I need to be here for 40.
Right, a dope sheet is what that is, like data on previous engagements thing.
Yeah. And,
You know,
and so,
you
so
know what I do? What
Go
I
ahead, Chuck.
do is I go through the bands. I use a doublet, so I have to do it for all bands. And what I'll do is go through kind of the middle of the band, each band for the generals. I have my general. So I'll go through and I'll write down on a list. And so then when you go to that, to your band, you can just pretty much get it pretty close to start with, and then you just fine tune it. So you just leave a list of each band. And say it's on input it's 60 and on output it's 40, and then inductance she's like 216 or something like that. On mine's a little I have a Palstar. It's a little different than some of the other brands like the MFJs, but they all do the same thing. So that's an easy way and a fast way to get back to your, instead of, because like a push button tuner is really easy, but by doing this, you can get to each band pretty fast, and you just fine tune it when you get there.
Thanks, Chuck.
yeah.
So I was looking at my radio, I had some white spots on it. What's going on?
You got to get those off of there.
Yeah, fix that.
I did.
Yeah, well, the thing is like with folks like us who maybe test a lot of different antennas or try different antennas, it's not really practical to have all the dope sheets, right, and all the markings and all that kind of stuff. But when you use the same antenna for a while, you do get used to where you're like, hey, I know the inductance is typically here when I'm 120, or it's typically here when I'm 140.
Yeah.
And it becomes a little bit of an easier chore. It's like anything else. Using a manual tuner, the first time, it's like riding a bike, right? The first time is hard, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. And Tom's saying he tunes in receive first, sets the inductor for max noise, and tweak the caps for max noise. Yep, that's typically much it. So what I'll typically do when I'm not testing for receive first is I'll just tune the inductor for the lowest SWR that I see on the inductor, and I do that first, and then I'll go back and do the caps. Some folks will say that your cap should be in the 50% capacitance mark when you start. Some people say they should be all the way open, not meshed, but I typically have them in the 50%. Not always, because sometimes I forget to reset them. You can get several places to match, but you want to match
the
the minimum
MFJs. The MFJ,
What?
the one I have, if you set it at 50, you're dang close every time.
Yeah.
I have to say, that thing's fast.
Yeah, and that's that we were talking about earlier. HRT is that there's more than one way to tune a manual tuner to get matched, and you want to make sure that you have the right ratio of reactance in the tuner. Otherwise, you do run the risk of insertion loss.
This is your spirit brother here, I think, N0VTY.
Yeah, you use an NOVNA to tune the
Use an
tuner.
NOVNA to tune.
There you go.
Yeah, you can, and
That
so
would work.
an antenna switch makes that really easy.
Well, the cool part about using the Nano VNA for using a manual tuner, so when you're using a manual tuner, it does have that cross needle thing, but you can actually on the Nano VNA you can tune it and you can watch it move. You know, you can see where your dip is.
Yeah.
And sure, I want it 1-to-1 at 20 meters, but I want it 1-to-1 at FT8 on 20 meters. Let's
Right.
just move it right on over there.
Yeah, and I would say to anybody who's messing around with manual tuners, definitely do the Nano VNA thing. I think we showed it on this channel. I showed it on
Just play
mine.
with it.
Well, and it helps you. It helps you get to understand the controls, how sensitive the controls are, how just turning that
Very.
thing just a little bit can make a big difference. And then it also gives you an idea of the inductance values that you would want to have on the different bands. So it's a great tip.
Stephen Reynolds flexing. Look at him flexing. And we still sell antennas other than the Kronos, by the way. We've sold a couple. Chuck, I got some coming for you later today. We are out of Kronos right now.
They went
There's
fast.
Go Kronos.
Another batch will be on the website as soon as we can get the parts and Chuck gets busy counting bits and bobs.
The only problem with the Kronos is it takes up a lot of space in my house. It doesn't go well
that
with
is
somebody
boxes.
else.
I hear a Chuck
All those
problem.
boxes.
I hear a Chuck problem.
That's a
We
that's
should- we
your
should
problem
order.
too.
We should
More
send
space,
something
more
nice to
power,
Kathy.
More parts.
Really? I mean, I think we should
Lower
buy something
price.
for Kathy.
Yeah, we should send her like a box of chocolates or flowers or something
Yeah.
like that.
Look at that.
Yeah. I think we should
You know,
buy
if we
her a
send
shed
Kathy
and
a
say
box
it's
of
from Chuck.
chocolates, Chuck's going to be in more trouble, actually.
That's the
Why
point.
don't you get me a box of chocolates?
That's
Yeah,
the
she's not
entire
a
Fun
big
of
point.
Chuck
she's
here.
she's not a big chocolates person.
I guess we'll get her the wine of the month club.
I was thinking we'll buy her a new vacuum cleaner and say it's
Now
from you.
that would go over well.
Oh, yeah. Chuck did that once already. Once.
Buy her
She
some
bought me a
cans.
vacuum cleaner. Actually,
Buy
it's
her a
a little
sandwich
vacuum
maker.
stand.
You were,
Little
you were
vacuum
very
stand.
grateful, as
Yes.
any good husband should be.
Jeff
Chuck,
has
you
to
should-
send her a Kronos.
We'll buy her a sandwich maker press. That'll work out well.
Like the
Actually, I
panini
need to
press
get-
or whatever.
I need to get with Tio, and
Yeah.
we need to order a bunch of parts.
We do. So Steven's saying she needs her own she shack. I don't know if you know Chuck all that well, but Chuck has stolen all of the hobbies. Every
Yeah.
single one of them. Chuck can cook, Chuck can sew, Chuck does cleaning. I'm not saying
Needle-
Kathy
needle-
doesn't. I'm saying like Chuck stole all these.
Needlepoint.
There ain't much left. Yeah.
No, it's quilting.
Yeah.
Quilting.
I was
quilting.
trying to make it easy.
I haven't done that in a while.
Yeah, Chuck, when you told me that you did quilting, I was like, what?
And he actually does a good job of it too. Chuck makes his own go bags, and I mean the bag. He doesn't like get a bag and put stuff in it. He makes the bag.
Yeah, they're just too. People ask me to sell them, and I was like, I can't sell them for a decent price. I have to charge you so much because the material is like $15 a half, like $30 a yard.
Use that Cuban
material I
fiber,
use.
right?
Yeah, it's people call it. It has some of it, like the one with squares. Those are threads. It's not the whole thing's not Cuban fiber. It's just the threads.
But what is it called? Dyneema or
that's-
something like that? Is that right?
Dyneema is what they call it now. Yeah, there's and then you can buy some that look like it that aren't. It just looks like it. So,
Right.
and probably the ones on Amazon that you're buying for, $2 or $3 a piece, they're probably not.
Yeah, they're
Dyneema.
just parachute. They're just parachute material, right?
Yeah,
Which, if you get a hole in that, kiss it goodbye. And then knockoff ones. All right, let's see. So what are we looking at there, James?
This is antenna tuners, and I have it sorted by low to high, and we can pick out brands if you want to pick on a brand. So this is from the cheapest on up. And some of these are
Let's get some plusage on that.
do they still have MFJs on the site?
I'm sure if they have stock. Yeah. I don't. Did you see MFJ over here, Chuck?
I don't see him in that list. Well, you hit
I don't
show
see 'em.
all.
Oh,
There's one. They got one.
Let's see what
They
that
have
looks
one.
like. That
There
is
it
a
is.
that is a nice tuner. I had a 993B. That's a the 93 is 300 watts. This is 600.
See, that says 600 watts, but I bet you that's 600 single sideband. I bet you that's not 600 FT8.
Yeah, they don't say.
I've never used one of the MFJ IntelliTuners, but I've heard great stuff about them.
I have a
Heard they're
994
faster.
I use or 3. It's a great tuner. That thing is like a 3200 to one match, maybe 6400. It will literally tune a tennis shoe. I mean, it just, now, how much power are you going to have? I don't know, but your radio will be happy.
That's all that matters.
So I have a lightly used 817 that it's just sitting here. Right?
Is that big enough, Abe?
You should send
Yeah.
that to me.
Well, a couple people have asked me, "Hey, would you sell that to me?" And I think I would sell it because I don't use it. Right? I'd rather have somebody use it than just sit here. And I actually have the original box. So the thing is that I have this LDG Z817 tuner. I can't find it. I have no idea where it is. I've been looking for it for like 2 years. If I find that, then I would sell them as a package deal, but I don't want to sell the 817 without it because then I'm sitting there with the 817 tuner.
Yeah,
Right.
which does you no good.
100%. But that's a nice little tuner. But again, it's only good up to 20 watts. So
Is it pretty
it's-
small?
it is small. It's like the size of an old man wallet.
And this is an interesting point here on this guy because you just mentioned it. 120 watts, 30 watts digital on this
Yeah.
matte tuner.
Oh, it actually says, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it says it, which I thought was interesting.
So
'cause I don't think
so. A fourth.
all of them don't
fourth
say
of-
that. Yeah.
I like those MAT or those matte tuners.
I've never had one.
I have the 705, the version 2, and it's pretty nice.
And all of these say essentially the same thing, 120 watts, 30 digital. Now, what is cool about a lot of these tuners, and the LDGs do this too, these will run on batteries. And
Yeah,
they'll
my
recharge-
MAT has a battery in it,
battery pack. Yeah.
which is super handy.
Like some of the,
That's the
I
cool.
have-
That's the cool thing about that 817 that one you have. It runs off the battery that runs the radio.
You can
They
also
have one for
put
the 857 also.
you can also put double A's in
Batteries
there.
in it.
double A's.
Yeah.
Yeah, the LDG tuners, and I have at least one of them that does it, have a battery pack inside for like 6 double A's.
They get pretty
And
heavy.
it'll run the tuner for freaking ever because the only time it's using any power is when you're making it do
Actively
the
tuning,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have the AT Pro 102
Let's
from
look at LDGs.
His naming is
LDG.
hard.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I wish I hadn't bought it. And really nice guy told me, "Hey, that's a good tuner for the
This one?
Yep, that's it right there. No, that's the Z though. That's the
This one?
Z11.
This one?
That's the one. And so you can see it's a little expensive, right? And here's the thing: take a look at it. It says 1 to 125 watts, single sideband, and then for CW digital 30 watts. Now I think mine said a little bit higher than 30. Maybe they've adjusted that, or it's a little bit different now. But $300 is a lot of money for a tuner to only get 30 watts digital. Now, some people are like, you don't need more than 30 watts digital. You should only use the minimum power required to make the contact.
That's right.
I do like one a little bit higher than that. And
I like to run a little hot. Yeah.
right. So I was a little pissed, to be honest with you, when I saw that limitation's there. So I guess the word of advice to folks who are buying antenna tuners is pay attention to that. Like if I was going, I wish I didn't waste the $300 and just bought the 600, the Pro 600, which is like $500. And Jim, you were selling one at one time, and I was tempted to.
Oh, that's the remote one.
Yeah, I bought the at Huntsville a couple years ago, right after I bought that Ameritron amp.
Yeah, that's when you got it.
I bought the LDG 1000 watt tuner.
And maybe that was the one. I was thinking it was
That was the
600.
one. Dude,
Maybe-
you know what?
maybe
It might
paid
be. It might
600.
have been a 600. No, it was
Maybe you
4
got the 1,000 watt and paid the 600 for it. I don't know.
No, I paid $400 for the tuner because Gigaparts had a sale going on. But it's a 1,000 watt tuner. And then I ended
this
up
one's
buying the
pretty
Flex
cool.
package from Garth right after that with the Flex tuner and the Flex amp, and ended up selling the
Can you say
Amen.
flex any more times?
And now you can flex. Flex.
I mean, I don't want to flex too much, but
If my antenna feed point was close to the house, I might consider something like this.
I would love to play with one of these. I would like
I
to,
would
to mess
too,
with this.
on the-
That
on
would be
the-
so
on
cool.
the Cronus.
It's gonna get run over by your long boys.
That is the
100%.
problem.
100%.
Got to mount it on a pole.
Is
Right,
that
but then you
12
have
volt?
like a garrote
Jim?
wire going across the yard. You know what I mean?
What, Chuck?
Is it 12 volt
I'm sure.
or is it 120?
It's 12.
It's got to be 12. That little wire's biased T, so it's 12 volt, dude. There's no way it ain't.
So you could take it portable.
I'm sure.
That's what I'm looking at.
Weighs a pound.
I don't want to spend that much, but
Can't help that.
I think I heard some
don't-
static in the background when I said
I don't
that.
see an input voltage on it. Oh, there it is. Well, DC power. That's all it says.
Watch it be something crazy like 7.8 volts.
But I mean, with that little connector, it's not going to be a tremendous amount of juice.
Well, that connector is probably the control unit at the shack. Right. And then it's going to use a bias T over the shield of your coax to get the DC out there.
Yeah.
More voltage.
Oh,
on
look,
your
it's got a
coax.
mount and everything.
There it is, Charles. 12 volts, 500 milliamps.
12 volts. So you said, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder how that would work with the Kronos and the Poseidon.
I'm sure
Now
it'll
you
work
put
great.
it right at the bottom of the antenna.
Does it say what the range is on it?
Yeah. It goes up to 6.
6 to 1? That's what I was looking for.
Oh, that range.
Yeah, it's 1.8 to 54 megahertz. So
He was talking about how many.
No, I was talking about the tuning range. Is it 3 to 1,
Tuning
10 to
range.
1, 4 to 1? And I've never noticed this, but almost all these things say 30-watt digital. Man, I've violated the
wow.
piss out of some warranties.
it says it
you
tunes to 800 ohms. It says
Okay.
tunes
So
4 to 800 ohm loads, 16 to 150 ohm on 6 meter, and 16 to
16 to
3200
1.
with optional 4 to 1 balun.
Okay.
Oh, our balun's already built in
So, not bad.
the antenna.
Yeah, because a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll just put a random wire, not a random wire antenna, but just a random wire connected to those things.
Oh yeah.
So
Maybe
this,
not.
Randy
this,
was
piece,
running off his trailer, right?
this piece goes
Andy from
out at
Oregon?
the antenna,
Yeah.
and then this is, you have to run this back to the shack there. And look, there's a clamp to mount it on your pole. Yard guy's still going to get it. Let me weed eat around those cables really well for Mr. Ape.
Yeah.
Oh, that didn't cut him, so let me get the saw blade on my weed eater.
Yeah. Let me get your plastic weed eater blade out.
They make plastic ones now?
Yeah, this is the one I had, Ape.
The 600.
I think so, because it was only like it was an 811 amp. It was only like 500 or 600 watts anyway.
So yeah, so that one does 200 watts digital.
So even if you're not running super high power, you should really.
Right. So like I wish that whoever told me to get the AT100 Pro 2, which is $299. This one's $419. So like $125 more. This would have been a much better and I've had it for 5 years maybe. So it would have been a much better long-term buy.
Like I said, I'm pretty sure I violated the piss out of the warranty on every LDG tuner I've had because I run more than 30 watts digital.
100%. Everybody does.
'Cause I never knew that was a thing. It says it's a 100-watt tuner. And by God,
That goes back to you always got to take it with a grain of salt what a manufacturer tells you
Oh,
about
yeah.
stuff.
here's
I bought this one off of James.
Hold on, Chuck. I'm going to get you on the full screen.
put him on in Big and Charles. Yeah.
Oh, that's
So this
specifically
one-
for Yaesu, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and this one, but it'll work with almost every Yaesu, okay?
It'll work with any
And then-
radio, but it'll cable into your Yaesu for easy
Right.
use.
But then I bought this one. This one was for my 857. It's specific, but I do believe you can still run it on any radio still. It's just a little, but it works really good on the 857 because, like I was saying, there's no batteries inside this one, I don't think. Although it's
Yeah,
pretty
there
dang
is.
heavy.
There is.
Is there?
Yep.
I think it
I
has
better check
batteries,
those
Chuck.
then.
Push the button on
Okay.
the front to see if the battery.
Yeah.
starts.
Does the
Still
red
hold
light
juice.
come on?
Well, there probably did. There's nothing going on right now.
Yeah.
But this is power. I thought this was powered by the radio itself. Maybe
It
it's just
can
the
be. It can
interfaces.
Theo, your volume is a little low when you're. I guess you're
Well, let me
backing away
fix
from the mic.
Probably.
I'm going to pull this thing apart
we
while
go.
we're talking. Go ahead.
So
Back to it.
I have that AT100 Pro 2, whatever, and it has a control cable, and I bought the one specifically for the 7300. And if I had a 710, for example, I'd have to buy the one specific for Yaesu. This is something that I learned from Jim. You told me, you're like, dude, they auto sense. You don't need to have the control cable
Yes.
at all. I'm like,
lot of
son,
times, yeah.
we talking about you a slapped ass. You can't
he was
you remember,
giving me
right?
oh, I remember. He was giving me no end of crap about that. I'm like, oh man, you high.
I'm sure.
You,
Yes,
you
he
back
does.
off the Miller Lite. You need to
And so
drink real
I
beer.
tried it, and I was like, well, I'll be dipped. I couldn't believe it. And I was like, this just opened up a whole new world for me. I love
Yes,
it.
Jim was
It
right.
auto
Mark
senses?
that on your calendars. It happens. It does happen. And Ape acknowledged it. Even more important. Yeah, so Chuck was talking about that Yaesu tuner he has. Chuck, which one was that you were holding up there?
This is the one I almost have apart here.
Yeah.
It's a watch.
I see the
It's-
hind end on that thing. I see the hind
Show
end.
show us its
So there's the
backside.
front.
Yep. And I can't remember the exact model, but I have an 857D and I have LDG.
I don't want to show this,
Let's go off the
but I'll show you.
Charles. Okay.
That's
Are
how
that-
bad.
oh
I
my
didn't think
God.
there was batteries.
I can
Yeah,
see
yeah,
hold that up again.
So
We're
we
gonna
just learned
hand shame
something,
you.
folks. Those batteries have probably been in there 15 years.
Not
Wait,
that
let's-
many years, but
Hold it
close.
up, check this. Here you go.
So it's time to
You
do
make
some
it
cleanup.
wear and chuck out.
Oh, boy. A little bit of seepage in there.
Replace
so
all
those
those
babies
batteries
are
with
coming
a
out.
single 18650.
Yeah,
Wow.
it would be nice.
So I have the 857, and I sold the Yaesu tuner to Chuck like 4 years ago. I don't remember when I had a 891 or something. And I was using one of the LDG tuners, and I don't remember which one it is. But yeah, if you figure out the right setting on the tuner and the radio, it will sense and it will do the tune thing. I think
you
the
run into a
difference is on
problem
some of
on
them with the
6
cable.
meters.
Well, see, I've never played on 6 meters because every time I look, it's dead as a hammer to me. But like the only thing with the cable that I've seen is it will, and it depends on the radio and the tuner, it will link up the tune button on the radio to the tuner to force a manual tune.
Yeah.
A hard go, Vroom, make it happen. But even without that specific link cable, whichever it is, because like Ape, I had the ICOM cable for my MFJ tuner with my 7300.
So the chat's going crazy about these.
But most of them
Duracells.
will also RF sense. All the LDGs will RF sense.
Duraleague.
So it's not my fault. It's Duracell's fault.
Yeah.
We buy Amazon batteries or Kirkland batteries from Costco. 'Cause,
I buy the Amazon batteries now. I
Yeah.
would 5 years ago. I'd be like, "Don't be buying none of them LaRue Amazon batteries,
They're all
boy."
made in the same factory.
Well,
You think Kirkland's got its own battery factory as well as its own cheese factory as
Well,
well,
the
as
thing
its
is,
own wine vineyard?
people are like, "Well, they only
Oh, no, I
last
know who
half
does
as
their
long."
wine.
Like they only live half. They only last half as long. And I'm like, but I got 3 times as many for the
That's
same
right.
price.
Yeah,
The
but they
math
cut one
works.
third, yeah.
Right. So I'm still on the front side of the exponential curve.
Yeah,
My
I use the
sister-in-law is the
EVLs.
wine buyer for Costco. And she comes
What is-
out
Nice.
and takes my wife to the wineries out here where others testing them.
What are they all like? Robert Mondavi, is that the one that they all rebrand?
the
don't know.
Costco wine brand, the Costco vineyards.
I can't
Trade secret.
Well,
can't say for sure.
What is the vodka? The Belvedere. So the Costco vodka is Belvedere,
I better pull this other one apart.
and I can't remember what their Scotch is, but their Scotch is like a expensive premium.
Because I want
Scotch.
Kirkland Scotch. Yeah.
I
This
have
is a
never
fine
bought booze at Costco. I don't drink
1999
enough booze,
vintage.
but
I've got to tell you, man,
That was 25 years ago.
my neighbor Gene Shorts Dave is hooked on the Kirkland beer. He gets the Kirkland
yeah.
Light. And,
Wow.
Nice.
I mean, what is that, like Natty Light or something? Or,
I have no
Okay,
idea.
I've never had
Lucky.
I've never had the Kirkland light beer, but I've had their packs of multiple kinds of good beers.
The Kirkland Light's terrible, but once you have like 4 or 5 of them, it's fine.
Kind of like Miller.
Can't tell anymore.
Right.
The other
keep it
kind of
cold.
beer goggles.
If you keep it cold enough, it just ends up tasting cold.
So you need a 6-pack of the real good Miller Lite, and then another 30-pack of the.
Right, that's the way
Kirkland.
to the way
Right.
to do it.
oh my goodness.
Where do we leave off?
I don't know. We were looking at antenna tuners, and now we ended up on Costco alcohol. So
There we go.
Costco.
The Pal
Smith.
Stars. Chuck, that's what you have right there, isn't it? Don't you have a Pal Star?
Yeah, that's why I pulled.
I
that
do.
One
I
up.
have the,
I
I have the
used one of these.
2000. AT 2000,
nice.
2K. They're smooth.
The
I have the
roller
second one
inductor.
there. I didn't pay that
roller
much, I don't
inductor's
think,
real
back when I
nice.
bought mine. Yeah, the roller inductor's way better than the MFJ ones.
It's got a
did we-
crank on it.
Did we talk about why the roller inductor is better than the clanker inductor? The clacker.
Do it, man. Do it.
Talk
So
about
here's
it.
the deal. When you key down and you move that click, click, click inductor, you're taking this. Every one of those clicks, you're disconnecting the antenna from the transmitter and then reconnecting the antenna to the transmitter while you're transmitting.
Arcing.
So you're not, yeah. So there's arcing issues. You're not supposed to. It's in the manual. You're not supposed to do that. It's in the videos that we've made saying don't do this. Like here's the right way. Key down, look at the meter, unkey, click the inductor, key down, look at the meter, etc. These roller inductors, if you open them up, they literally have a nonstop continuous touch roller system so that you can crank it. And as you're cranking it, you're moving the contact down. It's over on the lower left. You're moving, see that contact right there? You're moving that contact down that spiral inductor coil, changing where you're tapping the inductor, and you never lose contact with it. So you can stay keyed down the whole time and find the greatest inductance and the greatest, noise on the meter. So
There's some
yeah,
good looking
that's-
caps on that thing, too. Look at those things.
Those
Ain't
are
never seen no
clean.
dust. That
Yeah.
ain't been
They
in a hand
supposedly
shop.
have a problem. I think it's on 6. One of the
6 is
guys that
hard
we
to
met.
do.
You remember Craig that we met at Course Fest? I don't know if you
That
met him
is
or
a-
not. He came over at one
that's
day.
a
He said there's a
pretty
problem
looking
with
tuner.
something with them, but they're nice. Gary turned me on to that brand.
But the other thing
Differential.
that what Tio was saying is with the tapped inductor, which you only have certain inductance settings. Like
Yeah,
you can
16
really
or
fine
whatever.
you can really fine tune it with the roller inductor. Now, one thing about the roller inductor, it does take forever and a day to get cranked all the way from one end of that thing to the other.
Yeah, but look at that crank.
Where you got to work the crank. I would want a bigger crank. You know what I mean? So I could
He's a crank yanker, yeah.
right.
It's super smooth though, man. You know what?
It is.
Now, what is a differential tuner?
Hell, I don't know.
Because I ain't never heard of that.
Can we see the
One,
guts?
oh,
There it
tuner
is.
capacitor, one split stator. Okay.
So get back to the guts. Let's see a split stator on the tuner. Yeah, so one capacitor.
Yep.
So that looks like an L network, right? It's probably an
Right.
L network.
So what
That's
they're
as
probably
big as that
talking about
gets.
with this design is you can switch the capacitor from the transmitter side to the antenna side. So you're either adding capacitance to the antenna or you're adding capacitance to the exciter.
Which would
Okay.
change the. Remember, we looked at all the different L network topologies.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can see the front panel and see if that's got that thing that Tio's talking about.
Let me go back the other way.
Sit still.
Success on my print. Nice.
That's about as big
the,
as that
the
gets.
left one's the coax switch. So it's going to be one of the top middle buttons.
Let's see. Peak hold,
And usually they
Peak.
call these like a Z match tuner.
peak hold. I can't read what
There's
that
a
is.
zoom button in the upper right there. I don't know if it's
Th-
gonna
this
zoom
is
anything.
zoomed. This is zoomed. We're zoomed right now.
Okay.
It brings out another picture of what we already have.
Yeah. Ham radio websites are the worst.
They suck. That's power.
Let's click on this.
The
little
wor- the
tiny
worst is
1 inch by
HRO.
1 inch. picture
HRO
and
is
get a bigger
the
1
worst
inch by
site.
1 inch picture.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate HRO's website because it's like you got to know what you want before you even go there. The search on it is terrible.
It's terrible. And those guys are like Silicon Valley guys. You figure they'd be better than that.
Now this is fancy pants here. So this is a.
Let's look at the
2000
guts of
watt.
that thing.
This
Of
one?
the BT 1500A. That's the double L balanced antenna tuner.
Double L. Wow.
So that has two inductors.
Well, they probably have two inductors you switch between them to change the L network topology, like we were looking at earlier in the slides.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that thing's like $1,000, isn't it?
Oh, it's more than that. I
Oh
think.
yeah.
Which is that a Palstar?
Oh, yeah, it's $1,000. Full gallon. That's a special order item.
I
Oh,
should
Tim
sell
don't
all
keep-
my
Tim don't keep that in
MFJs.
stock.
We got to hand assemble that when you order it.
That's right.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's special ordered.
Oh
Will
no,
be
they hand
special.
assemble it. I'm saying I didn't know if it came as a kit.
Oh no.
The MFJ, the normal one that you guys see, the Versatuner 2, that is a kit.
And what's
what they were
interesting
doing.
is on this expensive 1500 watt, that's only 12 volt, 200 milliamps. These things use almost
Just-
no
it-
power.
It's just
Yeah.
a light. It's just
the
a light.
light on the and you don't even need to plug it in. It's
Right,
the light
on
on
the-
the meter.
Yep, like the MFJ.
Except the meter won't work unless the light's on.
Yeah, you don't need a meter.
Yeah, man, I'm
make a-
telling you.
They make a
A HRO site is impossible to find anything unless it's on sale and on the front page.
Yep.
they make an electric tuner too, or
And yet they're still in business because they have near zero competition.
Yeah. So this is Palstar. You want to see a different brand? We want to look
Us
at
hams are unloved.
what do we want to look at?
Look
Well,
at the
let's look
Clegaints down at the bottom. I don't even know how you say that. Clegaints?
Elegance.
Elegance.
Chelegant.
It's like
Elegance.
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 Elegance with CH in front of it.
It's
for
like
China.
Gendron instead of Gendron.
is he here
He
today?
ain't never gonna live that down.
I ain't
I have
seen
not
him.
seen him. He's probably upset because y'all call him Jean-Luc.
Jean-Luc Gendron.
I think that was Liberty Cave that called him John Luke, wasn't it?
This is what happens when you spend a weekend with us at an Airbnb.
Yeah.
I don't know
It's
if I like this
interesting
thing or
looking,
not.
man. It's interesting.
This company takes a lot of Chinese stuff, like and NanoVNAs and brands them as Clegaints. Like they're the ones that did my that big
Elegance.
VNA that I've got.
Yeah.
So this
Chinese
this
elegance.
is interesting. They're saying here that this is a Yaesu compatible tuner for FT8 17818 for $249.
It
It's
has that
also-
accessory. See the DIN port, the mini DIN
Yeah.
on there.
Yep. It's also only 30 watts.
Well, yeah, because the 818 only puts out 6.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't know what those radios are.
Yeah, best output 6.
Oh, bless its heart.
Still
if you wanna
sexy
be-
radio, though.
If you want to be QR minimum flare, then there you go.
Yeah, I think with the internal battery pack, my 817 only does like 2.5 watts. And that's just not enough. It's just not enough.
Which one do I have? This is the
We don't just 6 watts anyhow, right? Or depending on which one you have. Gary said there was a fix for that, though.
I appreciate
Michael
that, Michael.
taking
I
you
still
to school.
ain't gonna be able to say it. Like Chelegance.
Chelegance.
Elegance.
They elegance, like, elegant.
Then add a-
and
So it's like
China.
Chinese elegance.
yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
Yes.
Elegance.
Like this
Elegance.
guy said like 2 minutes ago. Yeah.
Flex don't give no pictures other than here's the front, here's another front, and here's the back. I was hoping they showed the guts. I've never taken mine apart.
How do you guys feel about let's go back and look at that thing. How do you guys feel about all those DB connectors on the back of those?
They designed it to hook up to anything, pretty much.
I don't like those.
They don't bother me.
What would you suggest?
I'm not suggesting anything because I'm not a.
I mean,
parts-
why do they offend you is what I'm asking.
No,
It just seemed like a pain in the ass. That's all.
Well, I don't have to. I'm not using them. I'm not using them for anything.
Yeah, but you paid for him. No,
Yeah,
the
I'm not
parts
making
paid
fun
for
of.
them.
I'm
You got
not
a
making
discount.
fun of the tuner. Like you see these things on everything. And,
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
like,
Oh, yeah, because you mean 1987 technology? Yeah.
yeah. That's my whole point about them. Is it's like, isn't there something a little more elegant we could use these days?
Oh, like, I don't know, a USB cable? Yeah. I don't know when this was designed. This Flex actually doesn't make these. I think these are 410. Is that right? 405A? I can't remember Don would know if he was here, Grumpy Don, but I think it's 405A actually makes these. And to me, it just seems like they designed this for the widest range of radios possible.
Right, for everything.
Right. Although, in my opinion, and I say this with love, Mike Walker, why you would buy a $2,500 Flex tuner to go
Hook
with
to your G90.
your G90 or anything else is crazy pants when I'd buy an LDG for 1/10 of that price. The sexy LDG for 1/10 of that price for a freaking tuner. But if you're buying this, you're in the Flex ecosystem. And I'm with you, Ape. I don't know why you would have a radio that required a 9-pin serial cable using it with the Flex tuner, but
Right.
Top of the line tuner, bottom of the line connector.
right. I'm like, yeah. So let's see.
Look at ACOM.
ACOM. Yeah. They proud of that.
They make
Or
fantastic amps, though. If I was going to spend big money on an amp,
an ACOM. Yeah.
Chuck's making a sour face. You don't like ACOM, Chuck?
Yeah, I do.
It
That's
drifts
just
in
Chuck's normal
time with
face.
his flex.
I was just looking at that. That's 1500 watt though. PEP.
Not enough.
It says it's got 4 outputs. So I wonder if you can remotely switch it.
I would guess
Gonna
you
have to.
can.
For that,
There ain't no
you
buttons
probably
on
can.
Oh, they give you the 3-hose clamp model. Where's that box?
Look at that
On the wall?
in the house.
I would guess in the house. Oh, look, that
your
one
desk.
actually zoomed in.
A little.
Danger.
A little, yes.
I wonder how you.
I already like this because it has danger in capital letters. So here's your power control is over there on the top right, 26 volts DC power and control. Yeah, so the only way you can drive this is remote switching. I guess it has an app or something.
Look at that ground bar. This guy's
Does it hook to your
serious.
computer?
Oh yeah. I don't know, Chuck.
I don't see a computer
Yeah, no.
connection. Do you?
You got a question there.
I'm driving the webpage. Does the Flex Tuner
Do you-
do 2 radios or one?
It,
Yes.
Jim got like 9 screens and none of them are on the stream.
Well, no, I'm moving the webpage around and trying to look toward the camera reasonably. The Flex Tuner will do
Failing miserably at both.
2 radios to 1 antenna. I think it does both, Michael. I'm using one radio to 2 antennas is how I normally have it set up. And the same with the amp. So yeah, I just was trying to figure out how you drive this thing.
Look at all them parts.
Look at those inductors, Ape.
I'm getting all my hand parts are tingling.
Are they tingling? Yeah, I don't know how you drive the thing. Let's see. Fully automated operation requires a CATCOM or CIV frequency reading interface cable between the transceiver and the amplifier.
Oh, there you go.
I didn't see that connection. Did you?
No, not really. I mean, maybe you have to have a ACOM amp for this to work. What is that? So that's just 4 antennas right there, and then that's
It sure
power.
is.
Went to the radio.
Well, so power and control comes from that connector on the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does say control, so I bet you it just does it all
Oh.
over coax.
Maybe so. 04AT, 04AT SD. Oh, scratch and dent. You can save
Alan says
absolutely
it's-
nothing.
Alan says it
Right.
What?
since ACOM sends out the control over RF cable.
Okay.
So Alan may have
Interesting.
one.
That's interesting.
Thump.
Hey, thumbs up. Wait, he says you need a separate control
Yeah.
head for another 2K.
For another 2K. Let's go back. and
They have a
let's get-
remote. they have a
Do it,
remote
do-
amp.
Go look on Alibaba. Or
Alibaba.
AliExpress, you mean? So this
Yeah.
is sorted high to low. Here's a holy Jesus. A lazy tuner LT twinned 10 high performance 10 kilowatt tuner.
There is nothing in a ham radio that's going to make me come off of $5,000 for a tuner.
I'm telling you. That looks like it was manufactured in Ape's garage while he was 3 Miller Lights deep.
Well, what's crazy is you have people spending $5,000 on tuners, and then you have people buying the $23 tuner off of AliExpress. You know what I mean? It's just such a
Yeah.
range.
I know, but look, what the hell?
It looks like a tube.
Looks like a flux capacitor. But you look at the build quality on this. I mean, this may be the world's greatest tuner. I have no idea. But the fit and
Ceramic
finish is-
insulated post for your open feeder.
looks a little ghetto for $4,400.
I don't know. That part looks pretty expensive.
This thing, yeah,
It's probably one of those ones like if you touch it, then it gets the oil from your finger on there and then it explode.
it exploded, and you have to buy another $5,000 one.
Oh, look at the pretty lights on the front.
Yeah. Holy Jesus. That's got more connectors than the Flex.
Look at the antenna for the top one, like that. What is that? This 24
Antenna
pin?
What, this? Oh,
Yeah.
that's a 25 pin. That's a DB25. So that's a 9-pin female, 9-pin female, 9-pin male, female, and then that's
It's
25 pin.
Hungarian. It's made in Hungary.
With a weird ass cable. That weird 3-pin power connector. That is the HA8DU. 4 kilowatt auto memory, HF, 4 antennas, 8-port switch control, rapid tune, color touch, multi-transceiver interface.
I'm sure it's sweet.
Okay. What else we want to look at on this page?
I was gonna say, let's take a look at the budget.
Alley.
We'll call them budget tuners. Hollywood saying that the Hungarian tuner doesn't have HDMI.
Yeah, probably not. I don't.
That's how they get you. What do you want, Timu?
I buy shit off.
Nice.
I buy filament off of Timu.
Well, that says Timu
Do
up
you?
on there.
Because he
Yes,
shops
I'm-
like a billionaire.
I'm on Timu.
Checks in the mail, Timu. Better be.
I just want to look at stuff. I don't want to have to sign it. Oh my God, with the
Yeah, that's the one thing bonkers is these sites with the pop-ups.
and you got to do them in order to get anything.
So I did some videos for AliExpress, and I've got like $200 in commissions off of AliExpress, and they want my bank number and my routing number in order to send me
Totally
the money.
safe.
And I'm just like, keep it. You know what I mean? Like I just don't want to have to deal with it.
So this is Ape. We've got you. I had one of these. I sent it to you because I didn't feel like putting the damn thing together.
Well, not that one. That's the ATU 130. The one
This
you sent
is
me, the 100.
the one, yeah, the 100.
I didn't even know there was a 130 out.
And I can't make the pictures any bigger. I can
probably
hover over
rebranded.
it.
Like if you scroll down the second row, first column,
It's totally different.
Where are you talking? Keep going.
so if the second row, column 1, what is that one?
This guy.
You must have a different window open.
There we go.
Yeah, that's not it, but that's fine. I think Don has this one.
I believe you're correct.
But I mean, $80 for a 500 watt tuner. You know, I'm suspect of all that.
I'm suspect, but I'm also like, it's only $80, right?
right. Well, just
I
run
waste
100
that
watts
much
through it
buying
and
lottery tickets every couple months, so you know what the hell. At least I got
when you
something
go up
to
and
touch.
get a pack of Newports, a 40, and a stack of scratchers.
That's right. That's right.
40.
I have to drive to Georgia to do it.
Jim ain't got no time for scratchers.
Yeah, that's
$80
the thing about Alley. Every time I click a link, it opens a new damn page.
Yeah, I was talking about the second row, column 1 on this one.
This guy.
Yeah.
All right. Yep. Another page. There-
I have that one, and I actually like that tuner. Did Jim
This has
freeze
it.
on us? He's got the AliExpress virus infection on his computer.
Probably. Am I froze?
You were.
Huh.
But I kind of like that tuner, to be honest with you.
Which one is it?
The AT100M Pro.
Is that the one I have? It's in a bag right now.
I think you do you have that one?
I think I do.
No, I did. I borrowed it from a friend of mine and then had to give it back.
I think it's got some I don't know. I don't trust it that much.
You might have the AT100, not the 100M Pro.
I think he
The
has the
AT
same one that we had, the 100. Yeah.
And I had that backwards.
there's
The
that
one I
N7
bought from
DDC
Jim was
one.
the battery one.
The ATU 100.
Yeah.
I just got one of those
N7
in for,
DDC, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the same one, I think.
But-
yeah, so he made an open source design, and now it's all over China.
right.
Yeah, but this 100 Pro, the 100M Pro, I think that's the one I have. I actually like it. It's clean. It's a tuner.
There's a beauty shot. And is that USB?
It is.
Yeah.
So you can charge
Yeah,
it
that
with a
part's
just
nice.
a battery.
Yeah, okay.
But what sucks about it is that those connectors are super close together.
Yeah.
And if you have normal sized hands, getting the coax on there is not easy.
Right. Morse code exercise support for HF radio system.
And that's important in a tuner.
Really?
Well, the thing is it doesn't work as a keyer, right? So it's like, I don't.
It does. Well,
Well,
you know,
It
you
works
can
as a practice oscillator, not as
Right,
a
right.
Practice.
There's
Practice.
a terminology issue there.
That's the one I have.
It's like those people speak a completely different language.
So I do when I run. I don't know. I run about 85% of power output. So I have a amp. This is the DB60 Neptune that does about 125 watts out. So I typically set it for around 100 watts out, and I can push 100 watts through that tuner with zero problem.
We kind of covered this one earlier. It tunes. It depends on the exact setup and the radio and the tuner, but generally all it's going to do is tune. It's not going to make anything blow up, if that's what you're asking, Paul. Like,
Well, if you're using an external tuner, you should not be using the internal tuner on your radio. Right?
Well,
it's one or the other.
yeah, but what I'm saying is it will initiate a tune sequence.
If you have the
you-
control cable, right?
Again, there's like 3 or 4 variations of this, the way these things will work. If you have the control cable and you hit the tune button on the radio, yes, it will tune. If you don't have the control cable and you hit the tune button, and this is what Ape is talking about, the radio tuner might engage, which will cause some weird things with the other tuner, because then when you RF out the other, now untuned external tuner, it's going to try and tune. So yeah, one or the other. And most radios will have a setting inside the menu system. On the Yaesus, you must sacrifice 3 goats and go 17 levels deep. But there is a thing about external tuner, yes or no, or using a specific Yaesu tuner. I can't remember which one.
When you watch an external tuner tune, you see the SWR meter on your radio bounce around while it's looking for the appropriate match.
Yeah.
If that's taking place and your internal tuner is trying to tune, it's trying to catch that moving SWR, and you will get stuck in an infinity loop, and it's going to be
Right.
It can be bad.
And the Chitori
Operator
will come back
skills.
through the portal. Yes, don't do that.
Right.
Yeah. And, it
You're
just,
right
it
about that.
just
There's wires
depends.
everywhere.
Just depends on which setup you've got and how it works.
Well, and that's what's so frustrating, because like the thing is like everybody says like, I don't know how to set this stuff up, because the manuals can't be written for every possible combination, right? And so a lot of the information is just simply not there. That's what makes Elmer's and like a support network so important.
Right. A lot of it depends very much on the exact setup. And then the other
I wanted
question
to-
that I've seen a lot and that I had was when you set this up. So let's say I want an external watt meter, like that big digital one that we all have and love. I can't remember the model number. It's MFJ. I think
Yeah, I
it's
got
also
one right here.
sold under 2 other brands too. So I want my digital watt meter, and I want my tuner, and I've got my radio, and I've got my antenna. How in the hell do I hook everything up? Where does the watt meter go? Does it go after the tuner or before the tuner?
Which you
That's
wanna measure, yeah.
yeah. And will it
You'll get a
affect the
different
tuning? Will it affect the tuning? Right.
A little bit.
So I want to correct something. When I was talking about these, the one I bought from Jim was the small one with the batteries in it. That was this one. right, Jim?
The
So,
one
so
with
you got the bad
dirty
batteries from
batteries.
Jim.
Yeah.
No, I think you.
No,
I don't remember
I
which one
changed
you
those
bought,
batteries.
Chuck.
This one.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because this one's for the. This is actually for the 70. I think the 857. And there's no batteries inside this. There's no connections, and I don't even see a battery connection. Period.
That one gets
So how
power
does this
from the radio.
Yeah.
So this one. I think Tio said you said you could use this with other radios, but how does
You'd have
that
to
work?
find a way to power it, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because it's got the tune button on the front. So
Yep.
on those two DIN connectors on the back, one of those, the one from the radio, is going to have plus some volts,
One-
like 8 volts.
But it
12
does have a
Yeah.
barrel connector for power on the back of it.
I think that
No,
was.
it doesn't.
Hold that
That's
up again,
remote. It
Chuck.
says remote. It says remote.
Yeah, I think that's a switching setup. That's
Well,
not
I'll
power.
be dipped.
Yeah. So it's going to be on
That
the
goes to the
radio.
radio. Yeah.
Well, it might get power through that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know because it's different than the power on this one. This one has an external power on it, but it's a normal looking power.
Well, plug that control cable in, and then turn your radio on and see if the lights come on without any
Yeah.
of the DIN connectors hooked up. And that'll tell
Totally.
you.
Or just jam power into it and put power on it and see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, you could easily make a adapter cable to work with an ICOM and work with the tuner button on the front.
Well,
Pop
they
the
sell
cover
the
off that
different
bad boy,
cables
Chuck.
usually.
Chip chop, and we can
I've
look
had
at
it
it
off
and tell
3
you.
times, dude.
We're probably gonna actually have to end the thing in the
Abe's
couple.
eyes
had it
are
off
yellow.
3 times.
Abe's floating. Abe's floating. Yeah.
He's floating.
Well, I think the next thing you'll see from us is tomorrow morning. You got something coming on there?
Yeah.
Jim's got a show on his channel.
Yep. I've started doing at this point a weekly Sunday morning show. It's me
He's
and
going to get angry
Tio.
tomorrow morning.
We rant about this or we do some things and
It's going to be a good one.
yeah.
I'm already feeling it.
Are you talking about that link that you sent the other day?
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Yes. Yes.
It's going to be about the ham police. People
ham
overstepping
police.
their boundaries.
And I'm like, I don't want to kill it. Watch the show tomorrow morning because it's just like, oh my God, Karen.
Yeah.
Who
I mean, the
appointed
ham
you?
police is in the thumbnail, so I'm not giving
Yeah.
nothing away yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
We're going to be angry about it.
Right.
So some people need better things to do with their time.
Pretty much.
All right. Well, thanks for being here, everybody. We appreciate everybody in the chat, and it keeps it lively. And we appreciate the super chats. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and hit the button. Unless you wanted to make that quick announcement.